All right, thank you very much for coming. I'm Kazuhiro Soda, and thank you very much for the nice introduction, Tsui Sensei. And I'm really grateful to be here teaching a documentary and also making documentary with the students here and the faculty here. Um, yeah, two of the students we are working on the edit are here. Um, and well, yeah, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I make my films in observational, so-called observational style. And so that's why I, I call my lecture "The Power of the Observation: How and Why I Make the Observational Documentaries." And actually, I'd like to mention that there's another camera over there documenting me. She's from a Japanese TV called Fuji TV. She's doing the documentary about me and also Big House Project and about America. And if anybody don't want to be in the film, please raise your hand right now. Anybody? Okay, you don't want it. Okay, so you don't want it. Okay, please clearly raise your hand so that she could avoid shooting you. Okay? All right. One, two, three, four people. Four people. You got it? All right. Okay. All right. So everybody else is fine. All right. And yeah. Do you hear me now? Okay. Good. Good. Um, uh, let me explain. Let me start with my brief bio because my style of filmmaking is pretty well connected with the fact that I mean, it's connected with the way I've been living. Um, um, Without my course of life, I'm not doing what I'm doing right now. It's a consequence of what I've been doing. And I was born in Japan in 1970, and I studied religion at the Tokyo University. But I moved to New York, just like millions of immigrants here. So I'm an immigrant here, okay? And 1993 to 97, I attended School of Visual Arts to study filmmaking, especially fictional filmmaking. I was not interested in documentary at all. So I didn't even take one course of a documentary, which I kind of regret. But yeah, I didn't, I had no interest. But then when I graduated from SVA, I accidentally joined a company which produced documentaries. That's how I met uh, the form of documentary. And when I was working for this company, I made many TV shows, TV documentaries, especially mostly for NHK. This company doesn't belong to NHK. It's a production company, independent production company, but they were providing a lot of shows for NHK. So I naturally worked as a TV producer, TV director. But then I became quite frustrated and also questioned about the way TV shows were being produced. And also, I was laid off. So I set up my own company with my wife over there. She's my producer now, Kyoko. Um, and since 2005, we've been making documentaries independently in observational style. And why do I want to call my films observational? You know, um, uh, observational film is called when you say observational documentary, you usually immediately think about no narration, no titles, no music. That's the vague definition of observational film. But you know, I think it's observation is much more than that. I think observation is a key to making good documentaries. And I wanted to redefine what is observation? By proclaiming I'm making observational films. And how do I redefine it? One important thing is when you think observational, it's you immediately think you are kind of distanced. You are a third party, right? No? If you're observational, you're observing, you have nothing to do with the reality in front of you. You are just a third party. I'm not concerned. I'm just observing, right? That's the perception, common perception of observation. But for me, it's more like a kansatsu. It's a Japanese word, kansatsu. It's looking and listening, looking and listening. So observation for me is about look and listen, which I really think we lack in our daily lives and in our professional lives, in our documentary life, documentary world. And I wanted to make it a point that by calling my films observational, I'd like to rethink about what is observation, what is looking, what is listening. And when I say observation, there are two levels. One is I, as a filmmaker, try to look and listen what's in front of me and try to learn from it and make a film based on what I observed. Rather than I have a conception, I have a preconception first, an agenda, and I want to take whatever that fits to my concept. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is I want the audience members, to look and listen what I made. So I invite audience members to look and listen and observe what's going on the screen, rather than I tell you what to think, what to look, and what to feel. Yeah. So there are two levels of observation taking place: me as a filmmaker and you as the audience. Yeah. And by the way, if you have any questions, raise your hand. Anytime. I want to be interactive as much as possible. So that's how I define the observation, and I've been making these film series. The first one is called Campaign. It's about the political process in Japan. Mental is about people with mental illness in Japan. Peace is actually about Kyoko's father and mother, and his father's cats. And also Theater 1 and 2, it's about renowned playwright Hirata Oriza. And also Campaign 2 is a sequel to Campaign. Oyster Factory is my latest. And all of them can be seen on video on demand or in the library in this system. So if you would like to check it out, DVDs are there. So, please watch it. But how do I make a film which enable me to look and listen, and also enable you to look and listen, right? How? So I came up with the 10 commandments of observational filmmaking. Remember, I have a religious study background. So I took it from Moses. And so how do I do it? First, no research. No research. It's kind of radical. I mean, for a documentary filmmaker to say, I do not do any research, because probably 99% of filmmakers in this world say, well, the most important is the research. But I took this, I made this decision because if you do a lot of research beforehand and gain knowledge, you tend to want to shoot what you already know. Knowledge is sometimes become a bias for you. Of course, I'm still biased, but I want to get rid of it as much as possible. And when I was making documentaries for TV, research was a must. Yeah. And when I was making documentaries for NHK, first thing you do is doing a lot of research. And then you come up with a list of potential subjects, and you make an appointment with them, and you meet them, discuss the matter, and you find out what's possible, what's not possible, what kind of scenes you can make, and you write scripts. Did you know that? Most documentaries have scripts. Yeah. And you have beginning, middle, and end, usually. You even have short lists. You even write narration before you even shoot. Yeah. Are you surprised? But that's how you are kind of required to make documentaries. Why? Because the producers of the network, TV networks, they want to know what kind of film it's going to be. They don't want to fail. They want to control the quality of the film. It's natural, right? But I think the more control you try to make, the less interesting the documentary becomes, because it becomes predictable. You already have a script, and you try to follow it, and you don't really look and listen. You just look at your script, and this one, and that's it. You forget to look and listen to the reality in front of you. So, yeah, I don't do any research. No meetings with subjects. That's my number 2. Of course, I do meetings, for example, to set up an appointment, and also to get permission, and to let them know that how I work. I do that. But I won't discuss what kind of scene it's going to be, what kind of things I could shoot, or what kind of things, what kind of film it's going to be, because I don't even know what kind of film it's going to be, right? I don't know. I'm actually right now making a new one, and I have no idea what kind of film it's going to be. Although I have some sort of a feeling, but I don't even know, what film I will make, because the reality is very unpredictable, and I'm documenting that. And number 3, naturally, no scripts. I don't write anything beforehand, because I don't want to be stuck with the script I already made. Let me tell you one example. When I was making a documentary for NHK, we've been based in New York for the past 23 years. And when 9/11 happened in 2001, I was also in New York. And naturally, the order came from the network to make a documentary about how New Yorkers reacted to 9/11, right? It's predictable. I mean, it's natural thing for us to make a documentary for TV about 9/11, because it's one of the biggest events ever happened in recent history. So yeah, but the theme of this documentary was already determined by the network. We were told, okay, make a documentary about New Yorkers coming together to overcome this situation, overcome this hardship, okay? Okay. All right, so to depict that, we started doing research. To depict that, okay, we should focus on? Maybe firefighters, people who are searching the deceased, the dogs, victims, victims' families. Okay, yeah, you come up with a number of potential subjects, and you do research, and you make an appointment or talk on the phone to find out what they're going through, and you write scripts, and we wrote script, and we went to shoot. But when I went to the ground zero, I saw a total different thing than the script. For example, when I went to the ground zero with the camera, there were many tourists coming from different parts of the world and different parts of the United States, and they were doing like taking pictures like this in front of the still smoking ground zero. And if you look aside, there were many people who are selling souvenirs of World Trade Center, like goods. You know what I mean? And it was selling really well. I was surprised, but I understood, oh, it's part of the human nature. It's interesting. So we shot it. And then we drove to a different part of Manhattan. And there was a district of wholesale district. And we were driving around, and we encountered a big crowd of people fighting each other. And I was like, what's going on? And we were shooting. We found out they were fighting for American flags, because American flags were the hottest commodity at the time. People, you remember, if you are old enough, you remember, people wanted to hang the American flags in their homes and in their workplaces. And it was selling fast. So they were short of American flags. So as soon as new flags arrived at the wholesaler district, these retailers were fighting each other, punching each other to get this, new flag, okay? So it was interesting. So we shot it. We came back to the office to edit. Producer said, no, you're not using it. Why? Because it doesn't fit to the theme. The theme is New Yorkers are coming together to overcome this situation. But I was really disturbed, actually, by his call, because one, it was at the time, people were grieving, and New Yorkers were, feeling like victims, and they were victims. But at the same time, this feeling was kind of being aimed towards the retaliation towards, Afghanistan or Taliban or whatever you call it. And I didn't want to, this sadness was turning into anger. And I didn't want to, feel that sentiment by just victimizing New Yorkers or glorifying New Yorkers. And then, this, what I shot was also a part of the reality. But why do you exclude? And so I didn't feel comfortable working for the project, so I resigned from the project. And that was a fundamental experience for me, Maybe we shouldn't have any preconception first. We should look at the reality and depict it. That's the most important job as a filmmaker, I thought. That stays really, that gave me a deep impression. And so that's number 3. So sorry about the long explanation. But yeah. So number 4 is roll the camera yourself. Because we don't make any plans, we need to be very flexible, right? We need to be spontaneous. So our crew needs to be very small. Usually it's by myself or me plus Kyoko. And I roll the camera, I record the sound as well. Just like this. This is when I shot mental. I have a big microphone on top of my camera. This is another shot from mental. Because I'm rolling the camera and at the same time listening to stories, I often look at the people as well. Also, the frame and the people and the reality in front of me. And number 5 is shoot as long as possible rather than short shoot. Because when I start rolling the camera, I never stop. I never stop shooting because you never know what's going to happen. You can't predict the future. So you roll the camera continuously so that I could capture the most crucial moment I encounter. Still, I often miss the most important moment sometimes. When I'm, drinking coffee or when I'm going to the bathroom, when I'm eating lunch, something really, fascinating happens. But that's life also. But I try to roll the camera as long as possible. Number 6, cover small areas deeply. When you try to observe something, it takes time. And if you try to observe this and this and this and this and this and this and this, it's impossible, right? So it's better to limit the area you observe and go deeply rather than trying to cover every bits and pieces. For example, we are working on a project called The Big House. It's about the Michigan Stadium. Although Michigan Stadium is big, that's why it's called The Big House. But as an area, it's pretty small, no? I mean, we are focusing only on this stadium. We rarely go out of the stadium. But, rather than, trying to cover all kinds of stadiums in the world, in the United States, or, we want to focus only the big house. So that we could really closely look at what's inside, what's going on inside, yeah? And number 7, do not set up a theme or goal before editing. This is another point. I don't want to have a preconception about the goal of the film or a theme of the film. I want to be open to all kinds of possibilities. So even before editing, I don't try to make a goal. This is contrary to what I was trained to do when I was working for TV documentaries. You should be able to know what the theme is. Actually, even before the shooting. So when you're editing, you already have a theme or goal usually. But I didn't really like it because then if you have a theme first, you only pick and choose what fits to the theme. You already have footage, right? And you only pick and choose conveniently to prove your point, which is not very interesting or eye-opening. So yeah, number 7. And number 8, no narration, superimpose titles or music, because I want you as an audience to observe, look, and listen as well. These elements could intervene or interfere with your observation, because narration, or for example, music, background music, like when you put sad music into sad scenes, it's impossible to interpret in different ways, right? And number 9, use long takes. Rather than chop up my shots, I'd like to use the long take as much as possible because I'd like you to have the time to observe what's going on in the film. And number 10, the last one, pay for the production yourself. This is a tough one. This is a tough one, but I decided, we should pay for the production ourselves and use and make the film ourselves and hopefully sell the film to distributors or TV stations and get the money back by doing that and use the money to live and to make another film. That's the cycle we've been doing for the past 10 years, 11 years. And because when I was working for TV, I realized I didn't have the editorial control. I didn't have the final say to the edit. Because why? I didn't pay for it. This is a capitalistic world, I realized. If you pay for it, you have a say. If you pay for it, you are in control. And I don't agree with that principle necessarily because money is not the only thing that's put into the work. If you're working as a filmmaker, you are putting your life into it, and you don't have a say to the final cut only because you're not paying for it. I think it's kind of unfair, but that's the reality we live in. So I want to be independent as much as possible. I want to pay for the film ourselves, and we want to keep a integrity by doing that. So that's number 10. And I could show you a clip from my first film campaign. And this is a clip which lasts about 4 minutes long. And I'd like to show you an example, what my films look like. And when you look at this clip, I'd like you to observe. This is an observational film. I'd like you to observe. And please keep your eyes on two things. One is the length of shots. And two is how I move around and how I operate my camera. I could be moving physically, or I could be moving this way or this way, how I do it, okay? So these two things I'd like you to keep in mind, okay? How do I make it a little darker? This one? Oops, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
짜잔짠짠.師匠がね、とかこの辺なんか渡ってくる人この辺でいいや。ここでまたそうか。そうですね、この辺で。よし。 にもちょっとちょうだい。そんなにちょっとだけ、もっと少なめ。こんばんは、山内和彦です。よろしくお願いします。あテストです。宮前平駅とご通行中の皆様、こんばんは。小泉自民党の山内和彦です。お仕事帰りお疲れ様です。自民党川崎支連改革推進チームの山内和彦でございます。私山内和彦はこの川崎の市政において小泉改革を実践してまいります。私山内和彦、皆様と共にこの川崎で改革を進めてまいります。どうか引き続き私山内和彦と小泉自民党の進める改革に引き続いて大きな皆様のご支援を賜りますようお願い申し上げます。お騒がせし申し訳ございません。小泉自民党の山内和彦でございます。お勤め帰りお疲れ様です。自民党川崎支連山内和彦です。こんばんは、山内和彦です。お疲れ様です。改革取り組んでまいります。よろしくお願いします。こんばんは、山内です。改革取り組んでまいります。よろしくお願いします。ご通行中の皆様、こんばんは。小泉自民党山内和彦でございます。こんばんは。私山内和彦は皆様と共にこの川崎の地で改革取り組んでまいります。今国で進められております小泉改革、今地方でも改革は待ったなしです。しかしまだ改革には反対する勢力、抵抗する勢力たくさんいます。現在私たちが取り組まなければならない改革、まずは行財政改革です。国から地方へ、そして官から民へお金の流れを変えることで、私たち自民党、改革派自民党は小さな政府を実現いたします。この小さな政府というのは無駄を省いた、そういった政府のことです。まだまだ行政には無駄がたくさんあります。私山内和彦は皆様と共にこの川崎で改革に取り組んでまいります。こんばんは、山内です。よろしくお願いします。こんばんは、山内和彦です。改革取り組んでまいります。お疲れ様です。こんばんは、山内です。よろしくお願いします。こんばんは、山内和彦です。こんばんは、山内です。よろしくお願いします。ご通行中の皆様、こんばんは。こんばんは、山内です。お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。頑張ってまいります。こんばんは、山内です。はい、お父さんお母さんによろしく。はい。何年生？4年です。4、5、4、4。勉強頑張って。ご通行中の皆様、こんばんは。お勤め帰りお疲れ様です。自民党川崎市連改革推進チームの山内和彦でございます。先般の衆議院選挙では皆様の改革への大きなご支援のおかげで小泉自民党の進める改革推進チーム大躍進いたしました。これは皆様一人一人の大勝利です。選挙によって政治が変わります。そして国も変わります。そしてこの川崎も選挙によって変わるのです。私山内和彦、改革をブレーキかける、改革にストップをかける勢力は許しません。皆様と共にこの改革に反対する勢力とは戦ってまいります。どうか私山内和彦に引き続き皆様の大きなご支援を賜りますよう、そして小泉自民党の進める改革に大きなご支援をよろしくお願い申し上げます。
Okay. So this is a very beginning of a campaign, and I forgot to tell you the relationship between me and Yamauchi, the candidate. We were classmates at Tokyo University, and we were classmates. And because he decided to run for a seat, all of a sudden, backed by LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan, which is the most powerful party of Japan. And it says it's a liberal democratic party, but it's not very liberal or democratic, by the way. And, you know, but he was picked as an official candidate. I decided to follow his campaign. And we were classmates, but I never saw him in a class because he never shows up. Um, he was always I don't know, sleeping. He didn't attend the class, but every time we have a party, he was there. So we became friends. And after graduating, he 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 was selling stamps and coins, nothing to do with politics. And he met his wife on the internet, and their honeymoon was to North Korea. So he's a very unusual guy. Nothing like from LD. I mean, you can't picture him as an LDP candidate. There was a mismatch. So I thought I smell a good film over there, right there. So I decided to, shoot him. And so in this scene, I've never seen him making a speech before. So I didn't know anything about, what kind of speech he will make in this film. He said, okay, I'm gonna make a speech on the street. You wanna come? So I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I started to follow him around. That's what you saw. And so any observation you made during this, 4-minute clip, 5-minute clip, any observation in terms of the length of shots or how I move, how I made my move my cameras, or whatever you noticed. Yeah.
I had lots of observations, but I have a question.
Okay.
So do your commandments allow sound bridges, or does it have to be a sync sound? So when the moment when we see the people coming up the escalator, is the sound in sync, or are you taking sound from an earlier moment?
Okay. You mean this one?
Yeah.
Okay. This one is pretty much synced, I think. I remember. But I often manipulate, to condense the time and also create the feeling. It's not necessarily like chronological either. I manipulate. That's the only way I can make the edits, like make the film as a film, because I'm not manipulating anything else. It's only the cuts and sound, image and sound. I'm not putting any music or narration. So, yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
I had never seen this before, so I can now see why you are so explained. That was fantastic. But I loved the scene where you were focusing on him and he is giving his political speech, and then you slowly pan to the station, and there's no one there.
Right.
Or there's maybe two people walking,
Right,
and
right.
they aren't paying attention to anything at all. But he's saying all these dramatic things.
That's right. Yes, that's your observation. Good observation. Yes. Yeah, I that's something I discovered too while shooting. When I was following him around from his back, he put his. I tried to recreate what I saw with the camera, right? That's how I do it. So when he puts down his poster on the ground, I focus on his, I show it. And then when he starts making a speech, I try to capture him making a speech. And then I started to wonder what would be the reaction from the passerby. So I panned. No one's there. That's my discovery. Yeah. And I came back, and so I have two modes in this sense. First, I'm trying to observe what's going on. And I noticed, I discovered, oh, nobody's listening. That's what I discovered. So how do I recreate? How do I interpret, translate what I discovered? So the last shot, you notice, I went really far away back and had a gradual zoom out, right? And so that I could emphasize the emptiness of the room or of the place. So it's very subjective. You understand? I am making observation, and it's me who's doing the observation. So it's very subjective. Okay.
How many takes were there?
3. Yes.
So it was fascinating because I almost, when you get a lot of editing, short,
Yeah.
short or frequent cuts.
You
usually tell me a story.
That's right.
But this allowed me to get mesmerized by the camera. I mean, by the camera, not by what the camera was seeing. So it's almost like I feel like the camera is a character.
Right.
That's exactly what you were saying.
Yes.
And, what you explained earlier, how you do this, when you're doing citizen, sort of sitting, talking to the person.
Right.
And recording sound and everything. It's like the camera's an interacting with the
Yes.
discussant.
Yes. Yes.
And to me, that's what made fiction so compelling. I mean, I guess I called it empathy. Now I'm understanding the mechanics.
Yes. Especially in mental, you mentioned it's called seishin in Japanese, and I discovered that I am a participant observation. It's a participant observation. When I'm observing, I am part of the picture too, because I am influencing the reality as well, and also I am a player actually in this reality. So it's observation, but I'm not separate. I'm not separated. I'm not a third party. I am part of the observation. So when I try to observe the reality and record it, I don't really exclude myself. You often hear my voices, my questions, and my reactions to what I see. So also, of course, the camera movement is a reaction, direct reaction to what I see, right? So, here, yeah, so it's probably a little bit different from how people perceive observation. Most people see observation as being separate and, third party, but it's not. If you look attentively and listen attentively, you are also in the world, in the picture, and you are a participant. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. Mm-hmm. Each side, meaning.
Yeah, when you look back, maybe the turnstile when you go into the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, near the end, and now it's signs on each side.
Oh, you mean the zoom back?
I don't know if there was anything on top of it.
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. That's a station. Yeah, train station. Yes, it is a train station. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Impartial. Mhm. It is a point of view, but not a comment, I think, because uh, I'm I'm presenting my own point of view, what I see, right, and from which angle, and how, but I'm not really making any statement. So I always want to make like stop short of making a statement because it's the audience job um, to to think about it and to make sense out of it is the audience job. Um, for me, my purpose is to depict how I see it, depict the world as I see it. Of course, uh, it's not neutral. It's very subjective. But at the same time, I believe it's open to many different interpretations because the form of documentary, these images and sound, um, it's you can interpret in many different ways. I can show the same film to many different people and get sometimes opposite reactions. For example, when I made campaign, some people told me, uh, well, you'll be in trouble because you're criticizing LDP. You know, you could be killed. And another person told me, why did you make a propaganda for LDP? I can't believe you did that. I was like, wow, it's working. Yeah.
I wonder, you get kind of campaign to be
Well, it's very typical way of campaigning. And I don't want to spoil the ending, so if you're curious, please watch it. It's 120 minutes. Yeah, yeah.
First, thanks for that. Those are real treats.
Thank you.
But in terms of your cinematography, I thought that the way you move
Mm-hmm.
really built a lot of context. And that even walking across the street and surrounding the candidate back and forth, and then panning, and then finally seeing the subway,
Mm-hmm.
and the vertical
Right,
shot,
right.
and then focusing on, I think individuals walking by, but maybe the camera a little bit lower,
Mm-hmm.
so you see on torso.
Right.
And I think that the key in the fact, at least for me, was it wasn't so much empty, but people were just indifferent.
Right.
So
Indifferent. Yep.
And they never stopped.
Mm.
And especially at the end when you had the image of all the people coming out of the escalator,
Mm-hmm.
and then zooming out, you see all the torsos crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Nobody's in front of them.
Right.
That's my comment. My question is, do you ever worry that your mere presence of the camera is also affecting the scene?
Oh yeah.
In terms of, especially swaying really close
Mm-hmm.
to the candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're not going to stop
Right.
the camera there.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I'm not worried about me affecting. It's just I'm aware of me affecting. It's okay. I'm affecting it because that's how we interact with people, right? I mean, I'm just having a camera, but I'm no different from you guys, like walking down the street. You are part of the street, no? You cannot be separated, right? It's natural. If you're there, you influence. So if I make any inference to what I see, I simply record it. And sometimes it reveals much more about the reality, like how they react. When I made Campaign 2, I was already known in the political community because Campaign. And Campaign 2, I was shooting LDP candidates, the same party candidates, on the street, making speech. And they were upset because I was shooting, because of my previous film. So some of them refused, like, no, don't shoot it, don't shoot it, no. And you made that terrible film, and you're not allowed to shoot. I recorded it. I recorded the whole thing, and it became a central part of the film. It shows, I was there. That's why they were saying no. And but I mean, I didn't really predict that kind of reaction because they should know I'm recording, but they did, and and it's revealing actually because of that. So I'm not really afraid. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. Sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Again, it reveals who they are. And for me, it's okay for them to look at the camera. I simply record it. And in my latest film, Oyster Factory, one of the workers at the factory imitated me shooting, like. And it's very funny. It's revealing about him, right? So I don't really mind influencing. It is about accepting as it is. I'm not trying to control. I'm not saying them, ignore the camera. No, you shouldn't acknowledge I'm here. I'm not saying that. I'm just there with the camera, and people react. Yeah. Some people react as if there was no camera, but some people react, yeah, there's a camera, and I'm acting accordingly. That's fine because it shows their personality, that shows their perception, and yeah. So it is about accepting as it is. Yeah, and it's actually liberating. Actually, I feel really free. Yeah. When I was making documentaries for TV, I was a little bit like restricted because I felt I should be invisible. I shouldn't affect the camera, affect the reality in front of me. But for me now, I just accept what's happening. Yeah. Yeah.
If the candidate got help from famous figure, a politician, he might get more audience.
Mm.
Did he get such a chance?
Yes. He got Mr. Koizumi, Prime Minister Koizumi came to support his campaign because it was a very important election in Kawasaki City Municipal. It was LDP and the opposition party had like 19 to 19 seats. So whoever wins this election, it was a by-election. So whoever wins this seat will be the dominant party. So it was really a party-to-party battle. So even Prime Minister Koizumi came to his campaign.
I'm wondering whether, to go back to the question you were discussing about the presence of the camera.
Yeah.
Have you seen in the 20, 30 years that you've been working a change now we all expect to be filmed because of the cell phones that are around us.
Yeah.
You know, that this situation with this camera here is different than it would have been 15 years ago.
I'm not sure. Yeah. It could be, it really probably depends on the person. Yeah. But it's still hard to get permission, for example, from government agencies or, you know, some, like, you know, although everybody's so used to being filmed or shooting each other or posting on Facebook, but when it comes to documentary, and if I make a formal request, it's still the same process. Yeah, it doesn't make a process easier. Yeah, so it really probably depends on what kind of characters I'm approaching, and also what kind of situation I'm shooting in. Right now, I'm shooting like something about justice system in Detroit, and yeah, this permission, like getting the permission, is not easier than 15 years ago, not at all. Yeah. Ah, right. Mm-hmm. Right. Great. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Big House documentary, we're working with 13 students. And the process was that me and Marcus Nornes and Terry Saris are the professors, the team of professor. And we all went to the scouting first, including the students. And everybody observed, you know, what's going on. And everybody came up with things they want to shoot. I want to shoot in the field. I want to shoot the press people. I want to shoot in the kitchen. I want to shoot this famous writer. I want to shoot whatever. You know, they came up with like hundreds of lists, and we discussed. Okay, yeah, this. So, okay, why don't we make a team and designate, you know, each subject and each area who to shoot, who's shooting what, and so each student and or each team go out and shot their things, came back, we review together, made comments, and then we did that for several times for different games. And so each segment is basically shot and edited by each student. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I'm now putting them together as a one film, and each student has very different point of view, and but still, it's part of the whole larger project, and it's coherent actually. So it's very interesting mix actually. It's a different point of view, but still coherent, and I really like that. And we are working with these guys to edit the film, and we are trying to finish it by the end of April. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We want to accept. I mean, yeah, I want to accept as it is. And what's interesting is when you don't, when you when you actively, attentively look and listen, it changes your perception actually, and it changes you. Um, it changes my perception, and it changes the audience perception as well. And so it's really a dynamic thing. Um, looking and listen. If you don't look and listen, you never change your opinion because you already have your thoughts, and you refuse actually blocking anything new, anything you don't want to hear or you don't want to listen to. And so I think it's really crucial in this day and age, you know, um, especially in this age of fake news and in this age of, I don't know, alternative facts. We should be more willing and willing to listen and look, listening and looking, I think, because that's the only way we could make a good assessment about the situation and act accordingly, right? Without that, without the process of looking and listening, we are in trouble because the reality in our head is different usually from the actual reality. So you got to really, I mean, I think it's more and more important these days to have this kind of attitude and philosophy. So yeah, I'm glad I named my films Observational 10 years ago. And I'll keep making these films, yeah.
On that note, thank you.
Thank you very much.